Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of Hiring and Inspiring, my new podcast. Today's guest is Sandra Robinson, a lady who I have been connected with on LinkedIn for a little while. I had a bit of contact on there over the last sort of period of time. She works in the world of sales. She works as a business development manager for a large company, Kennards. Very passionate about what she does. Very passionate about sales and the construction industry. So I'm really looking forward to having a chat with Sandra, finding a bit more about her journey, what she does, and for her to share some of her. I'm sure she's got some really good insights and wisdom to share with myself and the audience. So. Sandra, with that intro, sorry, welcome to the show, and how are you getting on?
Hi, Joe. Thanks for that intro. Look, thanks for having me on. But yeah, doing well, keeping busy and
Good.
out of trouble, as they say.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, if you don't mind, the first question to kick things off. I mentioned in the introduction there you work for Kennards as a business development manager. Yeah, maybe just sort of tell me a bit more about what you actually do in that role, and and how you help your customers, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, like any, I guess, business development manager role, the role is basically about bringing new business to Kennards.
Sure.
So right now, I'm in our major projects division. So basically, that is we look after any project that is of a substantial sort of infrastructure level. Anything sort of over 100 million kind of sits
Right.
into that major projects division. So my role is basically dealing with our tier one construction customers and sort of bringing in that business to Kennards.
And purely sort of hunting and winning new business.
Pretty much.
Mm.
Obviously, it's maintaining that relationship with the clients, but in this space, it is really fast paced. It is really
Sure.
hunting, winning, moving on, and
Mm.
hunting for the next project.
Yeah. And for those who may not know, Kennards, what exactly are you selling? What do Kennards do?
Yep. So Kennards Hire are basically, as the name suggests, a hire company. So we hire equipment to the construction, civil, mining space. Anyone from our weekend warriors, as we call
Yeah.
them, that are doing sort of your DIY at home, to obviously our tier one construction company. So
Yeah.
basically, anyone that is in that space, we sort of have the equipment. So we
Hmm.
have anything from, I guess, your small tools, which your weekend warriors would use, to specialized and specific equipment, say in the
Yeah.
rail industry.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. And I know you mentioned you're in the civil and infrastructure space, some of those major projects. What sort of insights can you share about that particular market at the moment? Because from my knowledge, I've heard, especially over the last few years, it's been a pretty buoyant space to be in. You're out there, doing the role, and probably got your ears to the ground. What can you tell me about that particular sort
I
of
mean, I
sector of the
guess
market at the moment?
it's probably a really good area to be in at the moment. I guess
Mm,
the sort of large projects, especially in New South Wales, Queensland, and certainly Victoria, is really taking off. It's a really busy time.
mm,
So there's plenty of work out there, thankfully.
yeah, yeah,
I guess the difficulty, and that is not just us, but a lot of our clients, is really finding the people to do the work. So that's probably where the industry is struggling at the moment. We just
okay,
don't have enough people. But definitely the work is there, and it's a very busy period at the moment.
yeah. So your customers, the builders and the contractors, they're struggling to for people on the ground to do the work. Is that right?
100%. There's a
Yeah.
definite shortage. It seems that that's sort of what everyone is complaining about. It's just
Mm,
finding those people on the ground with the experience to run the projects.
yeah.
So the work is there. Clients are winning the work, but really struggling to sort of fill those positions
Yeah.
in sort of your civil engineers and your site
Okay.
supervisors and the guys in on the actual sites. Yeah, it's a real struggle
What
at the
what's what's causing that shortage from your knowledge?
I mean, there is a boom in the industry,
Yeah.
and so we just we just don't have enough people.
Mm.
It was really, construction was kind of that industry that during COVID and that whole pandemic stage, yes, it was affected, but probably, certainly not in the same way that, say, your retail space was
Yeah, for
affected,
sure.
or
Yeah.
airlines, etc., travel.
Yeah.
So it didn't really slow down in that period of time. And then, of course, COVID's over, and then comes the boom, but that's just a boom without the having it gone backwards during the pandemic. So we just
Yeah.
haven't been able to keep up. And obviously a lot of
Right.
people that were here, say, from England, etc., Europe,
Mm.
they go back home and they just
Yeah.
haven't necessarily returned. So
Mm.
yeah, there is definitely a shortage in that space in construction. And we're hearing
Yeah.
things
Gotcha.
like we need, 4,000 engineers to to
Wow.
finish
Yeah.
our infrastructure projects. So, if there's any engineers out there and you're thinking about sunny Australia, now's the time.
All right. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Cool. And maybe if we just get a bit strategic here in terms of your role and your sort of sales process, when you say go about winning a new project for Kennards, how do you typically go about that? Like, what's your process for, I don't know, mapping out the project and who you need to speak to and getting in front of them? How does it all work in that
Yeah.
role, in your role?
I guess I'm very fortunate in the sense that I have been in the industry now for a few years. So
Yeah.
what I tend to find is those sort of people that are in that, I guess, initial contact group, whereas it may be your contract administrators, your estimators, etc., they seem to um, move around from company to company. So you end up, I guess, I've now been in the industry 7 years. Over those
Yeah.
7 years, you do amass quite a decent contact list, and those relationships are there. And so it's
Hmm.
really about maintaining those relationships. So when the projects are up for pricing, they
Mm.
your name comes up and they contact you almost. So it's really just maintaining those relationships, and then the
Yeah.
work does come to you. Um, Obviously, then it's your price, and there's the negotiation period, etc.
Mm.
Yes, that's where your negotiation skills come in.
Yeah.
We're
Sure.
not always, in fact, we're generally not the cheapest. So
Mm.
negotiating on what we offer is a big part of my role.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a big part of what I do. Um,
Yeah.
Once the projects are ready to commence, there is that negotiating contracts,
Yeah.
and I guess negotiating on what is our actual offering above and beyond
Okay.
just price.
Yeah, yeah, gotcha. So it sounds crucial that your name, as in Sandra Robinson, that is your credibility, your own brand is crucial in your ability to win projects, right? And who's knowing who's who in the zoo is the key, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. And I find
Mm.
that there's probably a lot of salespeople that don't. I guess they don't pay attention to their personal brand, and it plays such a
Sure.
big part in what we do as
Mm.
salespeople. Because that is you. Yes, everyone knows who Kennards are, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to come to whoever
Mm.
is looking after, major projects, or be whatever section it is. So it is really about them knowing you as a person, and
Yeah.
obviously they want to work with you. Therefore, your company gets the option to price.
Mm.
So yeah, personal branding, I think it's huge, and it's something. I guess
Yeah.
it's probably something that in the last few years I've really paid attention to,
Yeah.
because I've just noticed that quite often, that's what I feel I have above the competition sometimes. Just that
Yeah.
people know who I am now, and they know what I
Yeah.
do, and they trust me and they want to work with me. And I think if I was at another company, that would still happen. And I put that down to your personal branding, because I see
Yeah.
clients and they've followed me from company to company. Um,
Mm.
and that's because of, they know I'll give them a good service and I look after them.
Yeah. And that personal brand, as you say, is something you've really worked on and successfully developed over the last few years. How have you sort of gone about doing that? And say someone who's listening who wants to go, build their own,
Yeah.
what advice would you give them?
Well, LinkedIn is a great start. And
Mm.
there's lots and lots of people I guess, on LinkedIn that are making a living literally out of telling you how to do that. I
Yeah.
think that's really a space that's developed so much over the last, God, I'd say over the last, 12 to 24 months even.
Yeah.
And I know that that's probably, when I sort of first really got into, okay, let's give this thing a go. Followed a couple of people that were sort of talking about how it can really work for your personal branding and how good it is,
Yeah.
etc. So, I mean, that's probably a great place for someone to start.
Yeah.
Get out there because that's the whole point of a personal brand. People need to
Yeah.
know who you are. So show them who you are. That's
Yeah.
literally your brand. Who are you?
Mm.
What do you do? And who you are as a person and as a professional, and what have you got
Yeah.
to offer your prospective clients?
Mm.
What sets you aside from everyone else that's potentially doing the same job?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think just sort of resonating with your content that you put out there on LinkedIn, I think it is very the word is personal. It's obviously a lot of it's related to what you do in your field of work, but it's you let your audience get to know you. I would say, it's not just about your work. It's not just about working for Kennards or whatever. There's a personal element to it. There's you talk about stuff out your personal life, so people do get to know you. And I think that, and it's something that's a tactic I've tried to employ as well, so that your people that do follow you and people who are looking to sort of follow you on that journey can just resonate with you a bit more. Is that something you've tried to do, I guess?
Well, ultimately, I found that, and even during my entire career in sales,
Yeah.
people want to deal with people, right? That's
Sure.
sales.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
They know what a company does. They know what the product is. They don't want to call Kennards Hire. They want to call
Mm.
John or Sandra or
Mm.
Nicole or whoever it is, right? They want to speak to a person. And so I guess from my point of view, over the years, I thought, okay, well, this is what actually works in sales. It's people remember the personal stuff, right? And I
Sure.
always found that, you go and speak to someone, hey, how's, your son, how's their football going, or whatever it may be. And that's kind of
Mm.
the conversations people want to hear. They don't want to talk about just work. It's the personal
Yeah.
stuff that people remember. And it just, I don't know, I just found that it really does work. And you'll run into people now and they'll say, oh, how's your daughter or whatever it may be. I saw
Mm.
on LinkedIn that, you're out playing
Yeah.
football with your son. How's it going? How's he going? And so they remember that personal stuff. And
Yeah.
then the work comes out of that.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so
Yeah.
much better than, just promoting,
This,
posting pictures of your product or whatever, or,
yeah.
it's,
All that stuff is also important, but I have found that you got to almost do more personal stuff. Like I
yeah.
don't know, if I had to put a percentage on it, I'd go like I'm probably doing 70% personal, 30%
Okay.
work
Yeah.
related. And that kind of percentage really works for me.
Right. Okay.
I'm not suggesting
Interesting.
that that's going to work for everyone. But
Mm.
I don't know. I think people want to know who you are before they want to know what you do and what you're offering.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's not about a sales pitch. I always say to people, I actually don't really do sales pitches. I just have
Okay.
conversations with people. And even when I go on site, I end up talking to someone for 20 minutes, and I will probably do out of those 20, I'm just having a conversation for 17, and then maybe for 3 minutes at the end, there might be a
Yeah.
question about, what they need, what I can do,
Mm.
etc. So
Okay.
there's not much selling. There's just
But
conversations.
I guess could be wrong here, but in those conversations, you're hopefully bringing some insights, some value to the table, which in turn allows whoever the decision maker, the buyer, to sort of see you as some sort of credible perspective, and then they almost just give you the business, or they
Yeah.
just they give you their
But you've got to remember quite often, especially in what I do, at that initial process, it's about getting the opportunity, not so much the sale. So
okay.
that
Yeah.
conversation gets you the opportunity. And then I guess the hard sale pitch with this is what we can do better than our competition,
Yeah.
et cetera, comes at a later stage where you've
Mm.
actually already got the opportunity, you've presented your pricing, and you're almost in the negotiating stage. I find that's
Yeah.
where then the big
Okay.
sales sort of comes in, the sales pitches come in then. But at that
Mm.
initial stage where you're just seeking that opportunity, and you've got to remember as business development managers, that's kind of what we do. We are
Yeah.
really hunting for that opportunity. And then, once we've got the opportunity, then obviously later on comes the negotiations. And I find that the sales pitch part of what I do comes in that area where we're
Okay.
actually negotiating to win the job.
Yeah, gotcha. And it's quite long sales cycles in what you do, isn't it? 'Cause it's not, you don't, it's not, you don't close a deal on the first bit of contact.
Yeah, correct. And I mean that is,
Mm.
I guess, also a byproduct of the area that I work in. Quite often you're dealing with projects that go, from, I guess, estimating to starting could be 2 years. So
Yeah.
you're
Okay. Yeah.
also, there is a long process. So there are,
Mm.
in a sense, there are stages where
Mm.
you've got to sort of make it to the next stage. You're in the top three,
Yeah.
and then you're negotiating, and then yeah. So that whole process could be, well over a year from when you
Okay.
first submitted your pricing.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Well, look, I know, just from speaking to you here, and you're very passionate about the world of sales and what you do in the construction industry. Just sort of taking a step back, what is it about, what you do that sort of, gets you going? What is it that about a career in sales, does for you and the reason you do it?
Yeah, I mean it's funny. People always say, why sales, and it's
Yeah.
probably not a surprise. I find that you get this a lot from salespeople where you say you sort of fell into sales, and it certainly was that for me. After
Mm.
being a lawyer for many years, I wanted a change. We moved up to the coast with a family, and it was all about a
Okay.
work-life balance. And it's like, what do I do? I'm willing to sort of give anything else a try, and fell into sales. But
Right. Yeah.
I kind of love the fast-paced nature of it. Every day you wake up, there's that hunt. It's every project is different. Every person you
Yeah.
deal with is different. You're dealing with so many different types of people from so many different walks of life, and
Mm.
it's new every day, and it's just challenging. I know I've
Yeah.
always been that kind of person, I suppose, gets a little bit bored if there's not a challenge there, and I think
Sure. Yeah.
sales gives you that every
Yeah.
day, new challenge.
Yeah. It's definitely not a sort of flat line. It's, every up and down,
Yeah,
the roller coaster of it.
yeah.
So, you touched on it there a little bit, but your story is an interesting one. Like, you previously worked in, the law field and worked as a lawyer. How did it sort of play out that you left that industry and then transitioned into the world of sales?
I guess, look, we I guess we as a family, I was doing the commute to Sydney. We live sort of out west, and we had to
Okay.
give
Yeah.
time to young children, which I hardly ever saw, working
Okay.
really long hours, adding the commute, and both my parents and my husband's mother already lived on the Central Coast, and we sort of lost, I guess, all our support, family support, and we loved the beach, and we missed
Yeah.
being near the ocean. So it was like, let's just have a dramatic change. So
Mm.
we moved up the coast, and bought a block near the water, and I guess the rest is history. I sort of thought, okay, what am I going to do? And I was pretty
Mm.
lucky. I applied for a job where I sort of landed in a national sales role straight away. It was a small
Yeah.
company, but it really opened my eyes to I guess sales. Even
Yeah.
though I think even during my legal career, I already did a lot. I mean, I think that was one of my strengths. I was just good in front of people. So I was always the one
Yeah.
going to the balls and doing the conferences and things like that, just because as they say, I had a personality, which is apparently
Yeah.
rare as a lawyer. So I that was kind of my strength, and thankfully I actually fell into sales, and I could use those strengths and
Mm.
be successful in this industry.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was going to ask you, what sort of lessons or what did you sort of take from the legal career that helped you in the world of sales? Because I've got a few mates that work in the the will work as lawyers, and I always think, if you didn't do what you do, you'd be brilliant in sales because they're so, I don't know, able to influence and able to get their point of view across, and communication skills and negotiation. I just think they would make
Yeah.
fantastic sales. But obviously, they're doing great in their lawyer career. But
Yeah.
what about what you learned from that you could take into the world of sales?
Yeah, that's definitely it. I mean, obviously, you develop, really strong negotiating skills, communication
Yeah.
skills. You really understand the commercial world, which has obviously helped. Um, and you just bring that into sales, really.
Mm,
So it is there.
mm,
Obviously, there's a lot of skills that I brought from that part of my
yeah.
life into sales, and yeah, it probably, I guess, it does sort of set me apart from other people in
Yeah.
sales. I I really can be there from the start of the project in terms of the pricing, etc., getting the opportunity because I've got those sort of communication skills and I'm able to develop relationships really quickly. But then I can really stay involved during that whole negotiation period. I mean, we have our internal lawyers, but I get very heavily
Okay. Yeah.
involved in the negotiation of the contracts, and I can, I feel really confident that I can go into the room with their lawyers and their engineers
Mhm.
and really discuss, clauses in contracts, etc. And I often quite do that for the company. So that's obviously something
Yeah.
that I've got that experience and that background, which really helps me.
Yeah. And how did you find the sort of career transition? Because it's quite dramatic to switch up your careers like that. How did you at the time? How did you feel about it?
I mean, I think I did it. I really embraced it. I think I was
Mm.
really ready for a change.
Yeah.
And so I didn't find it difficult. I know a lot of people say, oh,
Yeah.
it's so different. How did you do it?
Mm.
I just didn't find it that difficult. I found that I really enjoyed it sort of in those first few months. And I thought, I think I can do well in this and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So, if you can
Mm.
get up and especially in sales, you know what it's like. It's quite emotional. It's a bit of an emotional roller coaster. And if you can still get up in the morning and still have that hunger,
Yeah.
after you lose a big job or whatever it is, then you must be doing
Yeah.
something right and you're in the right place.
Yeah. It's that resilience, isn't it? Just to keep
Mm.
bouncing back. What would you sort of tell yourself maybe 6, 7 years ago when you first started your career in sales that you've learned now, some wisdom you could impart to the younger version of yourself 6, 7 years ago who's about to start a career in sales? What would you tell that person?
Yeah, I'd probably say try really hard not to get so emotionally attached to your project.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably need to give myself that advice today, to be honest, Joe. If I'm
Okay.
really true to myself, I probably still need that advice.
Yeah.
I still need to follow that advice, but I'm hoping that I've got a little bit better at it. I don't know.
Mm.
Some people will say, actually, that's what makes you a good salesperson, that you are so emotionally invested in,
Yeah.
the work that you're going after, and you do get really upset
Mm.
about losing a project.
Yeah.
But I used to really struggle with that. I guess I'm very competitive, and
Yeah.
so at the start of my career, that was really tough. Like I'd almost need to go home and, go and have a little cry in the corner so I could get
Yeah.
up the next morning and go again. Whereas now, I take a deep breath, I have a coffee,
Yeah.
and I move on to the next one. So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably the advice I'd give myself.
Okay. I know what you mean. It's a blessing and a curse, sort of
Yes.
having sort of because it shows you care, and when you care, you often do some of your best work, and you're really really involved and attached to it. But then it's about
It
yeah, I think
hurts.
managing those emotions. Yeah,
Then it
yeah,
hurts.
just being able to sort of recognize that right disappointed, but over time I found that the losses they get easier to take. Just as I don't know, that's just something I found. What about the future? What we spoke a little bit about the past and the present. What do you sort of see the next sort of few years looking like for yourself?
I mean, right now, I'm really happy in the space I'm in. I guess I've only just sort of taken over this position with Kennards, and
Yeah.
like it's probably, I think we're up to like week 4 or 5. So I think
Yeah.
definitely for the next year or two, I really want to do this role and do this role really well and really push. I think it's an area where Kennards do really well, but we could do so much better. And I'm really keen to sort of
Sure.
take this division to the next level for Kennards. And then I
Mm.
suppose, I'll be coming up to 8, 9 years in sales, and I definitely feel like I have done the beat as they call it. We'll set
Yeah.
it up. It'll probably, I guess, like most people, I'll have to sort of reassess where I want to be and what I want to do with my career, whether that's sort of going into a more managerial role.
Mm.
We'll see. But
Yeah. I was going to ask actually, what about leadership or management? What's your take on that in future?
yeah, I think, I mean, I've sort of had a bit of a taste of it in a few of the
Yeah.
companies I've worked at. I've always felt like there were always sort of junior people, so there's been that sort of mentor role that
Yeah.
I've taken on, and I'm always happy to. Or someone new comes along and it's like, hey, Sandra, can you give them a little help? Can you guide them over the next kind of few
Mm.
months? So there's sort of already been that
Yeah.
taste of leadership, which I do enjoy. It's
Mm.
almost like, well, after a while, you sort of have to, you feel like you have to give back.
Mm.
And so I guess that's probably where it's going to end, and
Mm.
that'll be the
Oh,
next step in the career, I
mm.
suppose.
Certainly exciting. Um, and one just final sort of closing question from me. This is sort of how I traditionally close off on this show. And this question, you can sort of take it, um, any which way you like, but it's around the topic of success and what success means to different people.
Mm.
So, what does success mean to Sandra Robinson? And like I said, that can be personal, professional, whichever way
Yeah.
you want to take it.
I think, it's funny if you had asked me that question 10 years ago, the answer would be so different to what it is now,
Okay.
and certainly 20 years ago. And I think success really changes for everyone as we move
Hmm.
through life. Certainly now, for me, success is not just about what I'm doing at work. And it's
Okay.
definitely that work-life balance. Am I getting the balance right? And if I'm able to do that, if I'm able to do a good job at work and still come home and be a good wife and a good mum, then to me that's success. It's not
Hmm.
about having it all. I've
Hmm.
worked that out. That doesn't really exist, and
Yeah.
everyone's having
Yeah.
it all is different. Right? So my having
Mm.
it all, if I'm able to have it all, is just that. It's able to do a good job at work and be, somewhat successful in that role, but then
Yeah.
not have that success hinder my success at home, at being a good mum for my kids and enjoying, the activities with them over the weekend, and being able to take them to
Yeah.
sporting commitments and whatever they're doing at school, if it's a play, etc., and just
Yeah.
really be involved in their lives, which I wasn't able to do 15 years ago, because
Yeah.
to me at the time success was just being successful at work, and everything else kind of
Yeah.
had to work around that, whereas it's
Mm.
definitely changed now.
Brilliant. Oh, what a great answer. I love it. Love it. Well, Sandra Robinson, thank you very much for coming on my show and having a chat with me. Really enjoyed that. Loads of great wisdom and insights there, and thank you for sharing your journey with me. So, yeah, thanks for coming on, Sandra, and I hope to stay in touch and talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Joe.